Welcome to the Wealth Matters podcast, where investors come together to better understand how to build passive cash flow and create generational wealth without all the confusing mumbo jumbo. Here's your host and co-author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Alpesh Pamar.
Welcome to Wealth Matters Podcast. I am going to talk to Mr. Colin today. Colin is a property manager. So, first time a property manager on Wealth Matters Podcast. He owns a company called Atlas Property Management, and he actually recently co founded a construction company, Atlas Construction. So, I am looking forward to this episode on how Colin moved from being an investor to self-managing the properties to, managing larger properties. I was talking to him before we started the podcast, and he and I know a lot of people in the same industry, and I was surprised to know that he manages their properties as well. So I'm looking forward to this episode. Welcome, Colin.
Thank you so much for having me, Alpesh.
Absolutely. Hey, Colin, so let's start with some fun. Tell us something interesting or witty about yourself, something funny.
Uh, Too many funny stories to tell that are too embarrassing. Interesting about myself. I'm pretty much wholly overqualified, I feel, to do what I'm doing. I've got 3 engineering degrees. I played college football, and then I've got a professional
Ooh,
engineering license. So,
wow. Wow.
yeah,
Because I'm an engineer, I'm a software engineer in computer, so I can
Mhm.
tell, what we go through to get an
Yeah,
engineering
yeah.
degree.
Oh, yeah. I've wasted all that time and money to get here, but it's the path that I've been led.
I think it works. So a lot of time, we talk about, oh, you don't need to get educated and all, but and I also say that. But if you're passionate about something, it does make sense, right? So when
Mhm.
I started my career or journey, I did not know what I want to do, but I always loved computers, right?
Yeah,
And that's what led me to what I'm here. If I did not do computer, I wouldn't have been able to migrate to US, right? That was the very first thing. I'm from India, migrated here about 20 years ago. I couldn't have got work here, so that's what got me started, right?
yeah. No, it's so true. And do I use any of those structural design things anymore? No, not
Uh,
really. Since my partner Adam, that I work with, he's an engineer too. We met in college. We played football together, and he handles all the construction stuff. So I handle all the property management stuff. But it's led me to where I am, and the analytical thinking, how to look at
exactly.
numbers and analyze stuff. That mindset is still there, even if the technical skills aren't being utilized.
I agree. So, how did you start with real estate?
I always tell people I started with the real estate gateway drug. For me, was and most people is Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? That
Right.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
the mind blowing experience. That was the paradigm shift. So it's kind of like the gateway drug, is what I say. So yeah, I got in that. I spent about a year, um, reading, researching, listening to audiobooks and podcasts and all that sort of stuff. And then I had some seed money, and so it's time to pull the trigger. So I bought my first property.
And when
Um,
was that?
2017.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Wow. You jump started because I started as well. Exactly. I was driving and I was like, let me pop this city in, Rich Dad Poor Dad, because I had read it a while ago, but
Yeah.
never understood. And then while driving, because by the time I got into investment game, when I read it before, like 10 years ago, I was just
Uh-huh.
a workaholic.
Yeah.
And I was driving, and now I kept thinking. So 2015, I got started, but that's awesome. 2017.
Yeah.
So when you got started, what was going through your mind when you decided to self-manage your properties?
Well, as I was under contract on my first property, I got fired from my
Uh-oh.
my job, and I was kind of like, I don't. And I had been thinking about exiting once I was getting some traction in some real estate. That was always the plan. It just got accelerated. Um, so I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and self manage. So I'm on top of everything, and that's really what started the journey. My investments were here where I was located, right? They were in the town that I lived in. So it was easy for me to self manage them.
Yeah, no, that makes it easier.
Yeah.
Uh, so when you started self-managing, did you have any process in place, or how did you grow?
No. no. So I tell everybody, I self-managed for a couple of years on my own properties before I started touching other people's properties. So I was able to make mistakes at my own cost and not yours.
Right.
No, I didn't have any processes. I was just hacking stuff together with QuickBooks and Excel spreadsheets and poorly, might I add. And then I got introduced to property management software. Once I got up to about 40 units, that started being a necessity. And so I got some PM software, and at least I had that for the framework of,
Right.
you know, tracking rent collections better and going through applications and putting leases together online and starting to implement the processes that the software had to, excel that way and grow.
Got it. So once you started growing, what kind of system or process did you set up so you don't have to take 2 a.m. calls for toilet flooding?
So first, there's not as many 2 a.m. toilet flooding calls as everybody imagines. That's
Exactly. That's what we have been told, right?
Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to get a rental property. I don't want the 2 a.m. calls for a flooded toilet. I've literally never had a 2 a.m. call.
Right.
I've had maybe some 10 p.m. calls, but no 2 a.m. calls. As soon as I could, I once my staff started growing, my unit count started growing, I kind of had a maintenance coordinator come on board. And I was like, you're in charge of all maintenance calls.
Okay.
So that was that. And, training tenants to put their maintenance request in through the portal that the software has, so they can do it all online. So we're not getting the phone calls and there's that, and very rarely do we have something that's truly an emergency that can't wait until the morning.
Right. Yeah. Usually, unless there's a fire or something else. So
broken pipes.
Yes, broken pipes.
Water's the issue. So
yep. So another question: what software do you use, or did you used to use, and did you switch to another?
We
software?
started with, and we currently use Buildium.
Okay.
We are looking to make a switch here soon. We're kind of in that process, but haven't done it yet, so it's not official.
Yeah, we should definitely talk because my other business, my partner and I are working on building a new property management software.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically comparing that software to others would be like Tesla comparing to others because we are putting a lot of automated workflows.
Okay.
So it has a lot of AI stuff. So we are looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'll definitely have more conversations about that then.
Yeah, absolutely. So another question I have, and of course, because I am based out of San Francisco Bay Area, and I usually invest I also started with Midwest, and then moved on to investing in Birmingham and mostly Southeast. So of course, I hired a property manager. But if someone is investing in their backyard, would you recommend self-managing properties to those investors? And why or why not?
That is a very much a case-by-case basis. If you are an investor in Kansas City, I would say don't self-manage. You need to call me. But if you're outside Kansas City, it may be an option for you. So it really depends on what your goals are with the property and what you want your time commitments to be. So maybe you can self-manage a fourplex, but once you get up to 2 fourplexes, that time burden starts to become an issue. Right. And once you get more than 4 units, you also have to worry more about fair housing laws. So maybe it's good to pass that torch off to somebody else.
Right. Yes.
Generally, when we take over from owner operators, we see a lot of deferred maintenance. Okay. We see a lot of rents being behind. We don't have current leases, and rents are under market. Okay. So if that's the result of an owner operator that's been doing it for 20 years and this is their thing, right? Maybe they've only got they got 50 units and it's their whole livelihood, but that's the result of them doing it. Then even though the property manager is going to, quote, cost you money, you'll probably make more money in the end, because even if the change in income is negated, where, okay, before a property manager, I was making $10,000 a month and my rents are higher now, my building's in better shape, and I'm still making $10,000 a month. Well, A, you got all your time back that you were sinking into it. That's important. Yeah, you got your time. And then B, you don't have the exposure for fair housing discrimination. And then, additionally, since everything's tighter on the property, your leases are up to date, your rents are at market rent, your deferred maintenance is caught up. If you do choose to sell it, you might be able to reap additional hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not $1 million, depending on the size of the property.
Right. Yeah, because you have everything in one place, right? Everything's automated.
Yeah,
If the buyer asks for T12, these, that, you have all the documents, right?
exactly right.
And yeah, you drop some value bombs there. So I want to reiterate, most important thing is the time, because I want to make sure that I focus on the things which I'm good at.
Yeah.
If I love acquisition, I should be focusing on that, not talking to tenants, not trying to get rent increase and create a new lease, etc., and send it out to tenant, right? You
Mhm.
have to figure out your worth, right? If your
Yeah.
time is worth $200 an hour, you should not be doing this, right?
100% agree. 100% agree.
Yeah,
And
and the second point is the scalability, right? Bringing someone in allows you to scale up your investment game, right? So you can have maybe one property or maybe two property which you can manage, but if you really want to have 10, 20, 50 units, you got to be able to scale up. Then the only way to do that is build a team. Either you hire your own property manager or go work with someone like Colin.
absolutely, absolutely right. No, that's 100% true. That's true with any business. Is to
Yeah.
scale, you have to delegate responsibility so you can focus on what you're best at.
That's awesome. Now, another question, because you were an investor, you were
Mhm.
self-managing,
Yep.
then why, and you already know how painful it is to manage property, then why did you decide to start a property management company?
It was a very two very selfish reasons. So the first was, man, I am really not enjoying all of this dealing with the tenants right now.
Right.
What if I could start a third party property management company that would allow me to have enough income from those other properties to get my properties managed for free? Like that was my base entry. And then I was like, well, how about I just turn this into a profitable business instead of just a break even proposition? And, maybe I'll make some more money on this. So that was really where we got at. And then as we started digging into the property management industry more, started researching it, started learning about it, started talking to investors, I realized there is a gap and a lack of competent professional property managers. There is a lot of good ones out there, but there's also a lot of bad ones that give the industry its reputation.
Right, I agree. So another question I have: when did you decide to do that? Like, what was the time that you had 10 properties? That's when you decided, or 10 units, or was it 30 units?
It was probably around 50 or 60.
Oh wow! So you were self-managing were up to that point, and were you working full time, or were you just
No,
focusing on
no, so
this?
I bought that first 7 unit apartment building right as I was getting fired.
Oh,
Being
nice.
like, go. So I never went back to work after that. I said, I don't care what it's going to take. I'm going to make it work where I don't have to go to work anymore, where I don't have to have a boss, where I'm not the owner of the company or making my money off of real estate or fill in the blank. So from there, I started acquiring more real estate, and then decided I needed some help, and then now we're here.
Oh, that is awesome. So, has your investment criteria changed after starting a property management company?
Uh, Probably a little bit. We always were searching for pretty decent returns. We've probably just tightened up our pro formas a little bit, to be honest with you. And that's probably increased the NOI that we need because we realize that our operating expenses are going to be a little higher than we were thinking when we were new investors.
Got it. Can you talk about your best deal so far as an investor?
Best deals so far. Yeah, so the first deal I bought was a pretty good one, actually. Um, I came to the table with 25% down, 25% down. He owner financed the rest on a 20-year
Nice.
note. 2 years later, I refinanced it and pulled 110% of the money I put into the deal out.
That's awesome. And do you still own that property?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's cool.
So that's my free property.
And did you have any worse deal or bad deal?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Of course, all of us do. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. So this was one of my early deals, and it's probably like the it's probably the fourth purchase I made. We bought a package of 16 single family houses in one of these smaller markets. I live outside of Kansas City. Our office is in one of the suburbs, but I live out in the country. We bought in one of these small towns, and we were new and we were naive. And
Right.
so we bought this package of houses. We knew there was some deferred maintenance, but we way underestimated it. We're like, you know what? We know there's going to be some unit turns and some maintenance. We'll just pull the cash flow off to update those units. And we underestimated the cost terribly. And it's, you know, we're going vacant. We didn't have the money to rehab the units, and we didn't want to re-rent them in the poor condition that they were in, because we didn't want to be known as slumlords, because we aren't slumlords, and we wanted to be professionals. So we weren't going to rent a poor property. So then we started getting higher vacancies because we weren't having the money to pour in. So kind of started
Right.
spiraling, snowballing the wrong direction. And
Right. Yeah.
we've been trying to close for the last 7 days, but title work has been slow. But we're about 18 months in the making. We're doing a refinance with a large construction loan. And then my construction company is going to go and rehab 10 of these properties and
That's
get them
awesome.
back up to mark. So
So,
we're finally, like, the end is in sight. If we could just close on that loan, if title work could just get their life together. So
that is awesome. So, moving from self-managing properties to property management, then why construction company?
So a couple things. We were having to do rehab on all of our own properties anyway. And so I was already having a handful of guys that were working for me. And as I started looking at the industry and growing in the property management industry and seeing what was needed, you know, a lot of investors like myself want to buy an asset that has a value add to it. And the value add is going to come through some forced appreciation, which is either going to be increasing the financial performance, or doing rehab to get the units, their property, into better shape, which then increases the financial performance, right? So you're going for operational efficiency or value add through construction.
Right.
And people are like, well, who's going to do this work? Do you have a contractor? And I'm like, I've run construction projects before. I could do this. So
Right.
that's where it started. And I was running the projects very self-admittedly, very poorly. Maybe that's why I got let go from being a project manager, right? Colin, you're not a good project manager. We're going to have to terminate you. And I was kind of seeing the same pattern happening. And I was like, man, maybe I suck at project management. And so I reached out to my buddy, Adam. He's got an entrepreneurial mindset as well. And I was like, Adam, here's the deal. I have a property management company. I want to do construction. We have a large funnel that is allowing us to grow our doors under management as well as doors that need a rehab. Come partner with me. You're a great project manager. You know construction inside and out. Come with me. Let's partner up and let's grow this together. And I was taking an inventory myself to know, I know that I have weaknesses, and I know that, operations in that context was one of my weaknesses, but it was one of his strengths. So I brought him in to complement me, and it's, turned out best, with the value proposition for the whole thing being, listen, out-of-state investor, I know what your goals are because I'm an investor myself. I know what your pain points are because I've had those pain points. We are a single point of contact for property management, maintenance, and rehab, all under one roof, and we'll help get it done for you.
That's awesome. Hey, so I'm gonna throw a curveball at you. I was
Go
looking
ahead.
at time, and we have some time, and we did not discuss about this. But can you share some horror stories about property management?
Horror stories about property
Yeah,
management.
the tenant called you for something. Some of the weirdest stories.
Oh, geez.
Someone took a gun out on you.
Most of the horror stories are gonna revolve around the violence
Right.
or drugs. We have, with our value add proposition and our being able to handle operational efficiency and improve them, we have really started to cut our teeth and get a reputation for being guys that can turn around properties, right? So we see a lot of this life up
Right.
front. We have one that we're working on right now. It's a 24-unit building, and we're going to go rehab all of them. And one of our construction guys was upstairs, and apparently one of the ladies across the hall was selling her services, and a lot of guys in and out constantly. And she's like, "Hey, you want to come on over and hang out for a little bit?" And he's like, "No, I think I'm good." So we've had that. We've had people breaking into laundry rooms, to cut them open and steal the coins.
Right.
One guy that wouldn't go away, the son of one of the tenants. And she's like, no, you can't be here. And we're like, if he comes on the property, you're getting evicted because he's doing drugs. And so then he breaks back into the building. We've got a camera. We had to install cameras in this, but we got camera in the laundry room. He like moves in a mattress and all this stuff, which we have no idea where he got. Then starts smoking meth in the laundry room. And we're like, what do you do? Like, how? Hello, police. Yeah, that guy, you know his name. He's back again. Right. We've had tenants assault other tenants and then get restraining orders, and people die. You know? So it's just like, it's just, we're still shocked, but I don't know why we still are with some of the stuff we see. So,
so hey, and one more question. After seeing what you have seen, right? Do you not purchase in some of those areas or neighborhoods, right? Or when you are working with investors, do you also tell them that if it is in this neighborhood, we will not be able to manage your properties? Or do you go, are you okay with managing everywhere?
We kind of manage everywhere at this point. I'd love to say no to certain areas, and there's certain areas that we do, some small pockets. Overall, though, Kansas City, I don't feel is a town where if you go into this part of town, you're going to get shot, right? Some towns, big cities, bigger cities, right? Like Los Angeles, Atlanta, Detroit. You don't go to that part of town if you're not from that part of town. There's a few parts of Kansas City where you feel uncomfortable, and maybe at night it's a little bit worse, but during the day we go through there, and I don't feel like we're ever going to get a knife pulled on us or get shot at.
Oh, that's great. So this was awesome, Colin. Let's take a quick break, and after the break, we will go through the same 5 questions I ask every guest.
All right.
You're listening to the Wealth Matters Podcast. The Wealth Matters Podcast. For more info about what we do, check us out at wealthmatters.com. It's wealth, WEALTH, matters, MATRS.com.
Welcome back to Wealth Matters Podcast. Colin, are you ready for fire round?
I was born ready. Let's do this.
Let's do this. Has your, would you be changing business or investment strategy after coronavirus?
No.
No?
And we've had 400% growth during coronavirus.
That is great. Favorite real estate or finance or any other related book?
Atlas Shrugged.
Any tool or website you recommend or you cannot live without?
Google Suite. We live on Google Drive, email, calendars.
Yeah, me too.
Besides our property management software, that's what we use.
And this is an important question. Any advice for beginner investors?
Don't try to cash flow the rehabs, per that story I was telling you earlier. Get the construction loan and bring a contractor on ahead of time to get them to estimate it for you, and then add 15%.
That's great. How do you give back?
How do I give back? My wife and I are really involved in our church, so we help lead the youth.
That's great. And how can my listeners reach out to you?
They can hit me up on my website, www.atlas.rentals, or they can look me up, Colin Douthit, on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Colin. I had fun. I definitely learned a lot about property management today.
Yeah, this is great, Alpesh. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Matters podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes so others can enjoy the show too. Have a great week and happy investing!